Well, welcome. We're so glad to have you here, and hopefully this might be the last one of our really small kinds of groups as we come into the recovery. So I'm Kim Huggett. I'm president of the Hayward Chamber of Commerce. Welcome. You are sponsors principally of Leadership Hayward. This is a very significant activity. The last time we did this, we had almost 200 people in the new downtown library, and it was one of the first major public events held in that facility, and we're hoping to get back there at some point. We're just so grateful, especially to Life Chiropractic College West for letting us use this facility, not only for this event, but for our annual gala that we had a couple of months ago, and it went off terrifically. So what is happening now is we have, as you can imagine, we have many more people watching virtually. And what they're seeing is what you see on the screen. They're watching videos from our sponsors, those of you who are generously helped put this program together today. And so a year from now, we'll have a packed house once again, and we'll be enjoying each other's company. So these videos will be running in a moment. You'll see a welcoming video from Dr. Ron Oberstein, the president of Life Chiropractic College West, which has been in Hayward 40 years, as he'll remind you, and has stayed open through the pandemic, especially doing its clinic work. So we're appreciative of that. So you will see that welcome. Then you will see me do an introductory remarks, and then we'll hear from our mayor, Barbara Halliday. And then after she is through speaking, we'll take maybe 3, maybe 4 questions from our little group here. And I will carry the wireless mic out to you, and you can ask a question, and she'll repeat it. And those who are watching virtually will be able to comment or ask questions at a link that will be provided to them. So that way we keep a little control over the program, but still allow folks who have comments and questions to be able to make them. And that will be our program. So thank you once again for being here. And with that, I give you Dr. Oberstein.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Ron Oberstein, president of Life Chiropractic College West, and we are so honored to be able to host the State of the City address today by Mayor Halliday. And I also just want to be able to share that we are so honored to be able to take care of the City of Hayward and give a big thank you to our leadership, to the mayor and all of our civic leaders for helping to guide us through the last 14 to 18 months, so that we can see our brighter future that we are looking at right now. So thank you so much. Know that Life West is now celebrating its 40th anniversary this year, and we are so proud to be woven into the fabric of this amazing city, and we look forward to many, many years ahead. Thank you, and enjoy the State of the City address.
Well, good morning and welcome to the most unusual Hayward State of the City event ever. I'm Kim Huggett, President and CEO of the Hayward Chamber of Commerce. As our host, Dr. Oberstein, said, we are presenting this program virtually from the Conference Center at Life Chiropractic College West, but we also have representatives in person representing chamber organizations and our board of directors. Representatives from the boards of directors of AC Transit and the Hayward Area Recreation and Park District are here, with staff from Waste Management of Alameda County, St. Rose Hospital, and PG&E, along with the team from Calpine's Russell City Energy Center and Kaiser Permanente. One thing they all have in common, besides membership in the Hayward Chamber, is that they are also supporters of Leadership Hayward. The State of the City event helped support Leadership Hayward, certified by the Division of Extended Education at California State University, East Bay. Leadership Hayward is 32 years old this year with 350 graduates and 30 participants in the class of 2021, which has met virtually and in person this year. In fact, our featured speaker today is a graduate of Leadership Hayward. Mayor Barbara Halliday was first elected to the Hayward City Council in 2004 and was re-elected twice before being elected as Hayward's mayor in 2014. Her prior community service included serving on the Planning Commission, Citizens Advisory Commission, and Hayward's Growth Management Task Force. She earned a degree in American Studies from the University of Virginia with graduate work in journalism at the University of Maryland. It is my pleasure to introduce Hayward Mayor Barbara Halliday.
Sound check, can you all hear me? Good. And thank you, Kim, for that nice introduction. And thank you to the Chamber for organizing this most unusual State of the City address that we'll all remember. We'll all remember this time of COVID. And I also want to especially thank Life Chiropractic for being our host today and for being a really important part of our community. They've been, as said, celebrating their 40th anniversary this year as a college, and I think at least about half of that has been here in Hayward, in this building that used to be something very different, and they've turned it into a school, and it's really a great place. And they're out there in our community with their students volunteering a lot, and I'm so appreciative of them. So congratulations on the anniversary, Life Chiropractic, and thank you for having us here today. And back to the Chamber, I'm really glad we were able to do this. We had to miss it last year, but I want to make a special mention of the Chamber Leadership Hayward program, which I am a proud graduate of in the year 2000 thereabouts. I believe, and it has kept going. It wasn't a new program back then even, and they actually have kept this program going through this pandemic, mostly in a virtual way, I think. But kudos for them for keeping it going. And then I do also want to recognize there aren't too many people. This is really a very socially distanced and sparse audience, but we're filming it and it will be sent out. And so we have our city manager, Kelly McAdoo, with us, and two members of our community and media relations staff, Zach Ibadi and Arendira Garcia, who were really instrumental in putting this presentation together. And I'm not going to be talking the whole time. Luckily, we have some films with us. Our films as part of the presentation. So with that, we can move on. And so I will just say that this is the first of three parts of my presentation today. I'm going to be first talking about the impact of COVID-19 in our community and the city's response to this pandemic. And then the middle part is, well, where are we today? What's happening? What are our plans for reopening? And really a status report also of where we stand fiscally in the city. I know the Chamber's always interested in that. And then finally, the third part will be what's ahead. What can we look ahead to? We have some major developments and projects and initiatives that I'll talk about. So, and then at the end, I will take questions here, but also we'll be letting you know how to, those of you who are attending virtually, we're not going to have virtual questions, but we'll have an email address up at the end for you to use if you have any questions. You can send them to us and we will get back to you. So with that, let's move on to the health and economic impact of COVID-19 on our community. As we all know, around early March, we were all beginning to get a little worried about the news we were hearing. I know in my case, it was like, well, there have been pandemics, there have been things that you hear about that were in other parts of the world that maybe affected some in the United States, but I never, ever imagined that we would be facing a year like 15 months out now that we've faced. And So on March 11th, our city manager declared an emergency. And that is important because that enabled her and the city to take certain measures that would otherwise maybe have taken a much longer time to get in place. So, and you know, like all of Alameda County, we really started doing all this virtual meeting and just everything that happened. And it was kind of a very uncertain time. And we really didn't know at that point what we were facing. But I will say that we, like Alameda County in general and many parts of our country and world, have really been hit pretty hard. And so as of the first week of June, we have 220 Hayward deaths recorded attributable to COVID-19. And that is a little less than 20%, I think, of the 1,268 that have occurred in Alameda County. And for the business community, 450 businesses closed in Hayward. And that's a little less than 10%, I think, of the 5,200 that have closed across Alameda County. Now, I'm not sure about how many of those will end up being reopened, but no business was really immune. But the heaviest impacts were on personal and professional services, retail, hospitality, and eating and drinking establishments. So hopefully a lot of those will come back. And also for the human impact, more than 3,500 people who work in Hayward were let go or furloughed during this past 15 months. So that's a lot of impact on human beings and the way they live. But I believe that we in Hayward met the moment pretty well. And I would love to take complete credit for that, but I will not take really almost any other than the city council has certainly been supportive all the way. But our city staff leadership, particularly headed by city manager McAdoo, went to work and just put some amazing changes into effect that helped people in the way they needed help at the different stages of the pandemic, and just did an amazing job of helping our community get through this, starting with that declaration on March 11th, 2020. So we can move to, yes, now, I mean, the chamber especially is interested in what we've done for small businesses or business in general. So if you'll recall, in the early stages, PPE, remember that one? PPE, personal protective equipment, I believe is what that stands for. And that was in short supply. Has anybody got a mask? You know, where now we all have like a couple dozen probably in our wardrobes that I'm going to hang on to mine because you never know. But you know, people didn't have these things, and you know, wipes and you know, hand sanitizer and all that was in our businesses throughout our community were in need. We ourselves needed this, so we got our city hall set up, and we got also, and as you can see here, you know, that's at our city hall. We distributed more than 22,000 masks during a critical 2-week period in April 2020. We set up an emergency operations center to provide other help. We have distributed a first round in the early stages, 76 $5,000 grants to our community were distributed, and to various businesses in our community. And that was followed up with more money coming from the county and the state, or the state through the county. And so altogether, I believe that $1.3 million has been injected into Hayward businesses to help them get through this pandemic and the consequences that it caused for them. And so we also, we had enacted pretty early on a residential eviction moratorium, because I mean, and of course we did it, and then it was followed by both a county and a state eviction moratorium. But we then followed up with a commercial properties eviction moratorium too, so that businesses at least weren't put out just because they couldn't pay the rent. And you know, another thing we did to help some of the restaurants, we've done a lot to help the restaurants, and I'm going to show you a video in a minute of that. But one of the things was to put in place a 15% cap on what third-party food delivery businesses could charge, because that is the way a lot of people were getting their meals in that during that time, even now, I think. And this was a temporary measure. This will expire at the end of the pandemic. We launched Together for Downtown Hayward and Together for Tennyson street closures and marketing efforts to support local outdoor and takeout food and beverage and retail. So let's roll the video from one such an evening. We'll probably keep going throughout the summer. It was kind of a fun thing, but it did help. And we did have, I think, a lot of our restaurants who were able to do the combination takeout and outdoor dining for a while came through okay. I do think we lost some as well, but that's what we did try to help them stay open through the summer. So yeah, there we go. Support for residents. You know, the loss of jobs also led to other hardship. As I said, we did an eviction moratorium to prevent people from being evicted because of their inability to pay rent. And of course, food became also something that a lot of people couldn't afford as much anymore, families. So that's another way that we really stepped forward and you know, and tried to help people. We also opened up a COVID hotline and for fielded questions from all over the community during, you know, with that hotline. People had all kinds of questions in those early days. So we got volunteers from our city staff and from other parts of the community to help with that. And we got 6,000 calls from across the city, and we had more than 600 community members, including our own staff members, serving as volunteers during this process. And I talked about the residential eviction moratorium, which we later expanded to include foreclosures, so that people who you know, couldn't continue paying their mortgages could not be displaced either during this time. We had actually earlier established a Hayward Community Foundation, and I think we're going to be talking a lot more about that in the future, about what we would like to do with that. But since we had established it, it's under the umbrella of the East Bay Community Foundation, and we got a fairly large grant from someone to help with our COVID response. So that actually helped us to do some of the you know, to provide some of the aid that we've been providing. And so the food program, and we're going to show a video in a minute about that too. That was really one of the special ones, and it's still going on at Chabot College. So we had started it out at Sky West and later moved it to Chabot College and are partnering with them, and they've kind of taken over the program. But I do want to especially recognize Zach Ibadi, who is here with us today, for his just phenomenal efforts in running that program. And And well, let's just take a look at this program.
The City of Hayward is the first city to offer a pop-up food distribution site in Alameda County. We're really excited to serve some of the most vulnerable residents here in Hayward. The Alameda County Community Food Bank has provided the food. We've been working in partnership with the Hayward Recreational Park District to use this site, which is a fantastic opportunity to be able to host a number of vehicles. And then also using people who have been doing the Chabot College Food Pantry, bringing their knowledge to help us be able to expedite this. And then of course, we have a number of Hayward volunteers here, and really thank the residents for coming out.
I'm so glad that we're able to do this. I know that people are really struggling right now in our city. Many people are out of their jobs right now, and if we can help by giving out food, that's one less thing they have to worry about.
I mean, the City of Hayward's population, we do have a large vulnerable population, and I think in light of the virus, it's so important to ensure that even if people aren't working right now, they have access to food, because it's one of the few comforts that people can find.
That I think helped a lot of people, and it was just sort of astonishing to see how long people would wait in a line in a car to get that food, which, some of it also came from the Department of Agriculture, the fresh produce. There was canned and dry goods from the Alameda County Food Bank, and then whatever, meat and dairy that often came from local contributors. And so, but people would wait a long time to get this food, and it just kind of really highlighted the need. So moving on, this is another thing I'm really proud of. We actually, I think, opened this. This was one of the first community city initiated free COVID testing sites in the nation. And we got some recognition nationwide for this. And this started on March 23rd, when the Hayward Fire Department, headed by our absolutely amazing Chief Garrett Contreras, who was on it right away, to knowing that, first of all, trying to get his own firefighters, to his own team of first responders and firefighters vaccinated, because of course, they're the ones who are really out there on the front line going, oh, wait a minute, I'm ahead of myself, tested. He needed, in the beginning, we've gone through so many stages in this. In the beginning, it was testing just to know who had, whether any of our employees who were out there in the community still helping people had picked it up, also our police officers. But it really became a very much used community testing center that was really important, I think, here in our Hayward community. It started at the Firehouse Clinic, which is on Huntwood at the east end of Tennyson Park, but then later another partner here, Cal State University East Bay opened its campus to allow us to move the testing center up there, a little more room. They of course weren't having in-person classes at the time, and then finally we moved the testing center out to Sky West when we moved the food distribution over to Chabot. So things have been moved around a little, but I just, again, want to recognize Chief Contreras for his amazing work during this time. And yes, let's see a little video about the vaccination site.
Well, we have a couple of partners. On the medical side, we're partnering with Tiburcio Vasquez Health Center. They are getting the vaccines. We're providing the personnel to give the shots. Another partner we have is called Global Support Development, and they are providing nurses, doctors, and paramedics to assist the fire department in giving these shots. The feedback from the community has been great. I mean, they're real appreciative. We have 5 people giving shots at a time, and I mean, we're seeing 650, 680 people a day. So yeah, I mean, the process is real smooth. And basically, they can't wait to get the vaccine.
I got a text message that said, hey, you're eligible now, show up at this time, and I did. It took me 5 minutes to get, there was no line. It took me 5 minutes to get through, get the vaccine.
If you're undecided on getting the vaccine, I recommend you go on the CDC's website and get educated on the vaccine. Millions of people are getting them, and we need millions of more to get them.
I'm really proud of the City of Hayward, and they've done a really great job, you know, getting out resources, supporting folks in the community with food banks and other stuff. These clinics are popping up, and I'm really proud of the city, and I'm happy to be involved, and I hope everybody else does decide to get the vaccine, because we need as many people vaccinated to protect us as possible.
And that also is still going. And also, just if you haven't been vaccinated, please do it. It's really important. And Hayward is actually doing pretty well with our statistics. We are with 75% of Hayward residents ages 12 years and older have received at least 1 shot, and 59% are fully vaccinated. And that is right in line with Alameda County at 77% receiving 1 shot and 62% fully vaccinated, and ahead of the state where it's 65% one shot and 53% fully vaccinated. So I'd say we're doing pretty well with our tests, and especially with our vaccination center of getting people in Hayward vaccinated. And so moving on to the second part of, you know, where are we today, and what we are doing and occupied with today, happily, is getting back to business and reopening things. And if you happen to be in downtown Hayward on Saturday morning to see to attend our very first ever Juneteenth festival. It won't be the last either. Juneteenth has been made an official city business closure holiday now, and the event at City Hall Plaza, sort of coinciding with the farmers market. And again, thank you to the chamber for your help in setting that up, and to our newest council member, especially Angela Andrews, who did a lot to set that event up. But it was very well attended. Congressman Eric Swalwell was there to speak to us. But people were dancing. The music was loud, very loud, but it was a good vibe, and the weather maybe a little hotter than we would have liked. A lot of sunshine. I think I got some of that, but still, you could tell there was just this excitement about just being able to do something like this again that we haven't been able to do for 15 months. So let's see. Okay, here we are with the budget, and I really hate this part. I know the chamber, it's very important. It's not that I don't pay attention to it, but you know, our city budget, here are the wheels about where we get our money. Let's see, so expenditures first. There's revenues. Expenditures, you know, really basically about half of our budget. In fact, about 75% of our budget goes for public safety purposes. It's mostly, we provide services, so services are provided by people. So mostly this is our staff and the payroll that it costs, but there are other areas. And then on revenues, we actually didn't do as badly, but we are down in certain categories that you would absolutely expect that we would be down in, including especially the transient occupancy tax areas, a lot of the sales tax areas, some property. For a while, the real property transfer tax was down, but we're it wasn't as bad as we had predicted. So this year we have ended our, we approved a budget just a couple of weeks ago for use $6 million of our reserve fund. Now, here you see, so our goal is to have a reserve of 20% of our general fund. And so we haven't really been meeting that, but we have plans, especially around the use of one-time funds that we do get. But, as you can see, that number is down to 12% projected for fiscal year 2022. It was about 16.3% at the end. Well, we're not actually quite at the end of fiscal year 2021, but we will be in a few days. So that's not a good trend, but I will say that many of you have heard, and I'm going to talk about this in a little while, that Hayward, like all cities throughout the country, are getting some help from the federal government. And so while that can't be used to replenish reserves, I think it will be used in ways that will help us save some of the other costs we're anticipating having to have last year or next year in some areas. So I think it will help us make that number better. And I will say our very conservative finance director, Dustin Clausen. And when I say conservative, I'm not talking about politically so much as the way he estimates revenues. And so often, most of the time, in my experience with him, we've come out ahead at the end. But we don't want to have it be the other way. So he's very careful about those revenues. So let's move on from this financial stuff and move on to municipal services reopening plans. I know that's what everybody wants to hear about. And we, like any business, we have to worry about, protecting our workers, maintaining, but we've been really trying hard to maintain essential services and do that. So we're in the process of restoring in-person services that were temporarily suspended, and we're evaluating ways actually to maybe keep some of the changes we had to make. So I think going forward, I will say that I'll just give you the dates right now, and these could change, but our library is reopened on a limited basis, and we plan to reopen City Hall as well on a limited basis starting July 6th. And that will be limited, maybe a couple days a week or specific hours, whereas, and then finally in September, full-time back in service. And that will also start the beginning of the city council meeting again in our chambers at City Hall and having in-person meetings. Now, we might be able to come back a little bit earlier than that, but we generally have a recess in August, and boy, do we need it this year, I think. But also we are sort of changing things in our chambers so that we will be able to continue to take public comments and perhaps allow other people who are maybe presenting things to us to be able to attend city council meetings virtually. Some of what we do is going to depend on what the state does with the Brown Act under which we all work, and that was temporarily, parts of that were temporarily suspended in the last year during COVID because it does require council members to, or any agency, public agency board members to be, at the meetings physically, or there are exceptions where you can attend from offsite, but they're very complex and it's a difficult thing to do. Well, we'll see if they want to change any of that, and but I think for the most part, we expect to have council members in the chambers and the public as well, but with this added benefit of being able to let people call in with their comments as well, which we've been doing throughout this pandemic. And so that will happen in September, and move on. So we're getting back, and we hope our businesses are getting back too. Now, I'm going to move on to last November, we had an election. It went off. Actually, we had the highest turnout like the region and the state and the nation. We had the highest turnout ever, I think, here. While we've always had, a heavy mail ballot returns, it was obviously stepped up this year. I do want to recognize our city clerk, Miriam Lenz, for the amazing job she and her staff did to run this election. And there were 4 city council members elected. 3 of them were reelected, council members Marquez, Zermeño, and Salinas. And then council member Al Mendel, we were really sorry to lose him, but he chose not to run for re-election last year, so we were joined, Councilwoman Angela Andrews won that seat, and she is our first African-American woman council member in the city of Hayward. And I'm sort of proud. There was a period when I was on the city council, I think it was like 2010 to 2014, where I was the only woman with 6 men. Now we have 5 women and 2 men, which is maybe a little out of balance the other way, but you know, it's a refreshing change to see. And so, first of all, so we also had 2 measures on the ballot. The city council put 2 measures. The first was Measure NN, and actually the second was Measure OO. And when I saw how they looked in the ballot book, you know, NN, OO, I thought, no, everyone's going to vote no, but it didn't turn out that way, fortunately. So this NN was giving the city council the ability, the authorization to increase our transient occupancy tax, otherwise known as the hotel tax. This is a relatively easier one to pass for our residents because they aren't the ones paying for that. But I know that the hotel business, you know, really has suffered a lot. But this is only to give us the authority to do it. It's currently at 8.5%, and that was one of the lower ones in the region. And so we now have the ability to raise it up to 14%. We haven't done that yet, and we don't intend to do that until we know the hotel business is back and operating and healthy again. So that just gives us a right. It's just another part of the steps we've taken over the last many years to improve that reserve position that I showed you earlier and to get our reserves up. So that one passed with 73% of the vote. And then Measure OO is a measure, it was actually amending our city charter in 2 ways, one of which was to open up to for our boards and commissions, you know, that we open up application periods every July, and open them in the spring, and then in July, the city council reviews the applications and selects members to replace termed out or leave, you know, departing members of our boards and commissions, like the Planning Commission and the Community Services Commission. And you know, Hayward is a very diverse community, and we have people living here who are not U.S. citizens and who cannot therefore register to vote. And the charter said that to be appointed to these boards and commissions, you have to be a registered voter in the city of Hayward. So we took that provision out. And it's not that we have a lot of people, but every year we have had some applications from people who are truly part of our community, who are participating in various activities in our community and agents, other ways, and that our city clerk has had to say, no, I'm sorry, you can't, you know, apply. And so let's see, and that also passed, I'm happy to say, with what was that number? It was a little bit less, but 67% so of the vote. So let's see a little bit about Measure OO.
In November 2020, Hayward voters passed Local Measure OO, amending the city charter to allow all residents to serve on city council appointed commissions and task forces. The measure eliminated the eligibility requirement that restricted membership to registered voters. This restriction had prevented non-citizen residents from serving because they were not eligible to be registered to vote. By opening service on city commissions and task forces to all residents, regardless of whether or not they are registered to vote, Measure OO represents an important step toward more inclusive local government in the city of Hayward. To learn more about City of Hayward commissions and task forces, the roles commission and task force members play, and how to apply for an appointment, visit the city website at www.hayward-ca.gov. Click your government, then commissions and task forces. From this page, you can select the meeting body of your interest, complete the online application, and submit it by June 30th. You can also call my office at 510-583-4400.
And that, of course, was the voice of our wonderful city clerk, Miriam Lenz, who is always looking for ways to improve the service her office provides to our residents. So what's ahead? Let's talk about what's ahead. You can move that forward. And so very exciting news. When I first heard that as a result of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, that the City of Hayward would be getting about $38 million. I just thought we had won the lottery. I mean, wow, what we can do with $38 million. Well, there are a lot of things we won't be able to do with that money. There are definitely strings and conditions placed on it from the federal government, as there should be. But it is going to help us a lot with replenishing our funds that we used to help people last year through our, through this pandemic. And so these are one-time dollars. They do carry restrictions, and they must be entirely expended by December 2024. And we're getting them in two separate parts. We have already received the first 18 million, and we'll be receiving the next part sometime, I think, next spring, or about this time next year, probably. And so the City Council has had some discussion of how we're going to use these funds, but we haven't actually adopted a full plan. We're going to do that on July 13th. But basically, we're talking about dividing these funds into two broad categories. One, community safety and economic recovery, and the second one is fiscal recovery and stabilizing city operations. So for community safety and economic recovery, look for more support for some of the businesses who are very much in need of help. So we will be getting some of that money out there, and also to our nonprofits who have also suffered through this pandemic. And so some of it will be for that. Some of it will be to continue to help stabilize the housing market, help people through, paying back rent, compensating landlords for losses they've sustained, and for hopefully providing more opportunities for people to have housing who don't have it now in our community. And we also are looking at doing some enhanced maintenance of our public infrastructure. And then in our fiscal recovery category and stabilizing city operations, we are looking at some building and technology investments, like the one I just talked about a little while ago, about making our City Hall council chambers able to adapt to off-site presentations and comments. Disaster preparedness. We have always, I think, been concerned about that, and we have plans, but we'll be able to beef up that more. And I think we learned a lot from this situation we've been in for the last 15 months that will help us prepare better for whatever comes in the future. And then we're also going to, a lot of our city employees gave up, made concessions and gave up, bargained for cost of living raises last year. And so for those that did that, we are going to, make them whole because, so that we keep the agreement we made in the bargaining agreement. But it was really good at them at the start of the pandemic, when we just didn't know what was going to happen to our budget, that they gave up those cost of living raises last year. So now the part that's really fun to talk about is what's coming in terms of commercial development. And we really do have some very good news. This is what is planned, or these businesses up here are going to be in Hayward at the site of the old Kmart building on Mission Boulevard. The Planning Commission has approved this. It was not appealed. The City Council won't even need to approve it. It's coming, and it is expected to have a Sprouts grocery store, which has, grocery stores are the thing we hear the most that we need in our city. And then these two other fast food restaurants, In-N-Out and Cane's. It's a chicken place. I have to admit, these are not my favorite eating establishments personally, but I hear they're very popular, especially with younger people. So they're going to be there at the site, and it's a number of other shops as well. We have On Mission, La Victoria Taqueria, a family-owned South Bay staple, is coming to Hayward with a new standalone restaurant. We have a new Subaru auto dealership coming on Mission as well, right at the corner of Carlos B. That's being built right now and is expected to bring us $300,000 to $500,000 annually in tax revenues. We have a Hotel 2 Suites by Hilton going up on that's on Hesperian, but we also have a new hotel going up on Mission that I think is about ready to open. But out at our airport, there are 2 coming, and one of them was erected in just 2 weeks using very innovative modular construction. I call it, construction by Legos. The units, the rooms were actually sort of manufactured off-site and then, just kind of put into place by those giant cranes, and it was just an amazing thing. We are, over the past year, our industrial area is doing really well, and just over the past year, more than $465 million in new investment has been made out there. And then, one business we're especially proud of is Reflexion Medical, which raised over $100 million in 2020 to further their work in commercializing biology-guided radiation treatment systems. These are amazing machines. I've been out there and seen them. It takes an amazing amount of effort to even just ship them somewhere after they're made, and they could really advance treatment of cancer. So I'm really proud that Hayward, can't pound your chest when you have a microphone on it. I'm really proud of Hayward for having this business in our city that truly could save a lot of lives, people suffering from cancer. And then I don't know if you've traveled up Foothill Boulevard recently, but right across from where we have the Safeway Shopping Center is the new Lincoln Landing project, which we've been talking about for years, but is actually happening. And if you see it, it's, I think in fact, I think it says here, yes, we should see residents beginning to move by this time next year into those apartments that are being constructed. And there are some really good businesses coming there too. I can't know that we have that exact information right now, but I think we'll be seeing some new exciting businesses there as well. So now public projects, this one broke ground last August and I think is also on track to be completed by August of 2024. But this is a great partnership we have with Chabot Las Positas Community College District, who with use of their Measure A bonds are helping to fund this combination. It's a replacement for the old Firehouse 6 and training center that was out there by the airport on Winton. So it was our training center for a long time. If any of you ever took the whatever that they call that, the training that the fire department offers people like me who don't know how to use a fire extinguisher, or didn't until I took that training. But we also, part of that program was to put out a real fire in that old tower that they had out there. So I think they're going to be building a new, they are just rebuilding that whole, it was very worn out, tired buildings. And they are going to be, totally rebuilding that. And Chabot College will have the Chabot College Fire Academy there. So it's going to actually be a college training program, help us train our own firefighters. I think it may be used by others throughout the region, and it will be a regular fire station as well. And this was done, our part of the financing came from the Measure C sales tax measure that was passed in 2014 that built our library, but also has helped us renovate all of our fire stations and basically also rebuild this one. So, this is an interesting project you've probably heard about. This is the Caltrans properties. This is, many of you who have been in this area for a long time know, there was originally supposed to be a freeway that ran up through the Hayward foothills from Industrial up to the 238 580 interchange up there at the top of Foothill. And of course, that was a long, right? I mean, the property, the discussion goes back to the 60s. Caltrans had bought the property up. People were living still in the houses that were up there, the properties, renting from Caltrans, which wasn't the greatest property manager in the country, for sure. I don't want to, I mean, they do a lot of good things, Caltrans, I don't, but yeah, there were a lot of issues about the property they were handling all these decades up there in the hills. Well, a few years ago, Hayward made a deal with Caltrans to have an option to buy these properties, and they were divided into 10 parcels. And we have an option to buy. We have a certain period to do that in, which is now extended to, what is it? Looking for it here, 2020, I think it's 2027, but they did extend it because of, COVID, I think. But in any event, we have been marketing these properties, and one down at the bottom, and actually 10, 10 is down there too, but it's not on the map. And that is the new Sohay development that's down there on the corner of Mission and Industrial, that has people living in it now. And then, just going up, you'll see a lot of it's residential. That 3 and 4 are going to be an affordable housing project, and a school that will serve young children, which is much needed. And then 5 is the Bunker Hill area that had a lot of the houses that Caltrans was renting out, but now it's going to be developed into 74 market rate houses. All of them are going to have ADUs though. So, and the developer is paying into our affordable housing fund as well. But the ADUs are also going to be much needed housing, I think, and maybe will be rented out to some college students, I would expect. 7 down there is, 7 and 6. Full disclosure, I really can't, I couldn't be involved in 7 and 6 because I live right in between them, actually, and I'm too close. But 7 is right on Mission Boulevard, and it's that Subaru dealership that I talked about. And that's one of the just 2 that are kind of slated for commercial development. Most of it's housing. And then 6 is the old quarry area that has been vacant for a long time, and that's going to be a fairly substantial housing development. We're working with a developer on that one. And then we haven't quite gotten too far on 8 and 9 that are up at the top of Foothill Boulevard, but we're continuing to work on those. So, all together, this is going to bring us more than 1,400 new homes, we expect. And the affordable percentage of that could exceed 30%, depending on how all of this plays out. So that's a very exciting project. And that is all being spearheaded by our assistant city manager now, Jennifer Ott, who has been doing a great job working with the development community and Caltrans on this project. Let's house Hayward. That is very important, and we are doing a lot of work around this area. We have this is a picture of our navigation center, which has stayed operating throughout the pandemic, although at half capacity, which is sad. But we have recently added a hotel annex part of this to allow people to have individual rooms. And we are working with the county. I know that the city manager and I are working with mayors and city managers from throughout the county to get more county funds to help us do this work. We're planning to have a more robust winter warming shelter that will actually operate year-round rather than just in the cold, rainy winters. We hope rainy. And so these are just some of the things. We have a draft plan, and the city council has approved it. And if you want more information about that, check out our website. It's all there on Let's House Hayward. Now, this is another big area that came up in the last year in the midst of the pandemic. We realized, George Floyd was killed in Minneapolis, and that set off a wave throughout the country of, rightfully concerned people about how we do policing in this country, and Hayward was not exempted from that, and a lot of questions are being raised about that. And so we're working on that too, and have come up with a set of policy and innovations. I have to say that I think one of the biggest issues in this whole discussion we're having here and nationally is how we handle cases of mental illness and excessive drug use. And, you know, often police are called when they're not really the best trained people to handle these kinds of situations. Sometimes it causes escalation and things happen that you don't want to have happen. And so a big part of what we're doing is developing more resources to deal with mental health questions, creating a mobile integrated health response teams to handle 911 calls involving mental and behavioral health issues, adding staff like a behavioral health clinician in HPD, also a behavioral mental health coordinator, actually calling upon our firefighters who are, trained EMTs and paramedics to be more involved in responding to some of these incidents. There are some other things. We're going to share some money with neighborhoods. We're going to have 10 neighborhoods in the city get together, and we're going to give them each about $35,000 to do some project in their own neighborhood that will help their own community, and they got to choose that. And so there are a number of things we're doing as a result of the policy innovation workshops that we've had this spring, and that took community members from our commissions, our boards and commissions, and city staff members spent a lot of time discussing these and coming up with these recommendations. So that's a lot of good work. Getting to a problem that we had before COVID and that we will continue to have after COVID is adapting to climate change. And we feel it right now with the drought we're in. And so, however, drought stricken as we may be right now, we also are expecting sea level rise impacts to our shoreline. So we are one of the first communities in partnership with the 2 recreation districts who have property out on our shoreline, the Hayward Area Recreation District, HARD, and also East Bay Regional Park District, to complete a shoreline adaptation master plan, which we just approved a couple of months ago. And I'm really proud of Hayward for doing that. And this is being done throughout the area, and just our part alone, which actually only covers the part of our shoreline north of the 92 San Mateo Hayward Bridge, but just that part of it has a lot of our important infrastructure, like our wastewater treatment plant. In fact, there are 2 at the top. There's also the Oraloma one. And also this is a great recreational resource for our community. And so those were very important to us to do this work, have this work done as naturally as we could while preserving essential infrastructure, but also preserving the beauty and the ability of our residents to enjoy that shoreline. So that's what our plan is. Of course, it isn't implemented yet, and the cost is estimated at, are you ready for this? About $1 billion. That is just for our part. We're talking about having, needing this around the bay. But these are long-term projects. There will be money. There's already money now, I think, in the state budget to start doing grants. And in fact, our effort to develop this plan was helped by a grant. So that's going to be something that's going to be going on for decades. But we're kind of ahead of the game by having this plan, and I really appreciate our Park District partners in that. And my favorite, this is not built yet. It is still somewhat of a dream, but it's a dream that's making a lot of progress, including a visit a few weeks ago by our Congressman, Eric Swalwell, who is trying to get us some federal money to help with the building. We're calling it the Stack Center. It's the rebuilding of what is now the Eden Youth and Family Center at Tennyson and Roos. That mustard colored building that is an old school building that's just been there forever and is on its last legs. And we've known for a long time that this building needed to be rebuilt. I want to mention our former supervisor, Gail Steele, who passed away during the last year. who worked tirelessly to get this project launched, and it's making a lot of progress. We're starting to accumulate the money we will need to see it through, and it's going to have not only the health facilities that are now housed there, the Tiburcio Vasquez Pediatric Clinic. It's going to add a behavioral health clinic as part of it. It's going to have meeting rooms. It's going to have educational facilities and services, a cafe that we may use as a, I don't know, there could be like opportunities for internships in running the cafe. That is at the corner. And I don't think this is a very good picture of what it's going to ultimately look like, because we're getting a lot of community input. A lot of young people have been part of this. But if you look at that in the middle there, just to the right of the yellow on the first, that's actually a passageway through to Tennyson Park. And so it's going to really open up, along with renovating the Matt Jimenez Center, really open up that as a good community center for that area. And I believe we have a film on this one too.
The Stack Center is a multi-service youth and family center providing South Hayward with health and wellness, education and technology, art and recreation, and economic development opportunities. The project vision was forged collaboratively and reflects the unique strengths and promise of the diverse and dynamic South Hayward community. The Stack Center will be the place to be and become in South Hayward. The Stack Center is based on a legacy and a history of important public service in the South Hayward area. The Silva Clinic and the Pediatric Medical Care, Eden Youth and Family Center and the Computer Clubhouse, the child care programming, all of this is the foundation upon which the vision and design for the future Stack Center is based on.
The Eden Youth Center has been here for many, many years, has done a wonderful job in this community of providing services and activities for youth in this area, but the building is very old and tired and needed replacement. The new building is going to be spectacular, and it's been planned with input from a lot of the young people who live in this very community.
Starting from the front to the back to the sides, we got to design everything. And I feel like what I've given is some like design ideas and like a community getting together.
What's exciting, truly exciting about this project is that when it's built, it is going to offer a multi-service youth and family center that is crafted to the unique promise and strengths of this great community. There are going to be opportunities in education, recreation, healthcare, language services, library services, culinary services, and child care, health and wellness. The list goes on. Tremendous and diverse programming opportunities all under one campus. From the very beginning, this project has been based on inclusion and community. The community that has contributed the vision, the programming, the legacy, and the design. And as we expand our community now to include you and others, we have an opportunity to make this a reality and to build it. Please contribute in any way that you can. Visit the website, reach out to individuals. We hope you're as excited as we are for the potential for the Stack Center and for the potential of the future of the South Hayward community.
And you saw in that film Congressman Swalwell, who toured the site. And yes, any of you who would be so inclined to make a contribution, check out our website. You can find out how to do it there, how to help. I think we're going to be doing some major fundraising efforts for that in the next few months. So with that, I'm done with my formal presentation and ready to answer any questions that those of you who are here have. We will be putting up a slide. And there it is. If you are attending this virtually, please submit your questions to that email address and we will get back to you. But do we have any right now, Kim?
We might have a few questions from here in the room, and you also will be receiving notices that this will be eventually on the city's YouTube channel. So you'll be able to get more information and replay your favorite portions of the presentation. Our first questioner, Paul Hodges from HARD.
Good morning, Mayor. I'd like to find out, when would the nonprofits be able to apply for the stimulus money?
Well, you mean from the nonprofits? Oh, from the city, from what we might be sharing? Yes. I'm going to ask our city manager if she has an answer to that one.
There's not going to be an open application process. The Community Services Commission made some recommendations to the City Council on how some of those funds should be allocated to some of our existing service providers. Many of them had to take substantial reductions in funding last year from the funds that we typically give to them. And so after the July 13th council action to approve the funding, then there will be more information distributed. There may be some applications, but it's mostly going to be for specific programs. But I think if people are interested in learning about how those funds are going to be distributed, then July 13th City Council meeting and staff report will have more information. But there are also, just for the business community in particular, this Thursday evening at the Council Economic Development Committee, the committee will be discussing the allocation of stimulus dollars to the business community and following up on the survey that was conducted. And so a series of recommendations, I think over $2 million in funding from the stimulus that would go to the Hayward business community. So that will be discussed at committee and then also approved by the council on July 13th.
Am I on? Okay. I got a real estate question for you. In the last 3 years, how many new housing units have gone turnkey in the last 3? And then how many housing units do you expect in the next 3 years will go turnkey? And when I say housing units, I mean both rental and single family homes or condos or townhomes.
The last 3 and the next 3 years? Yeah. I'd say thousands. We can get that number to you. We have, we are under, we have to report to the state. We have numbers that you've heard of, RENA numbers, Regional Housing Needs Assessment from the state, that when we count those, but really, I think we're into the thousands if you count the last 3 years and what we expect in the next 3 years, and a mix of affordable, of all types of housing, multifamily, single family. We are building more dense these days, so there are going to be, more houses on a given piece of land than there used to be in the past. But I can't give you an exact number right now. And I do want to say, Director Hodges, that I failed to mention that we're in partnership with the Hayward Area Recreation District and also with our County Supervisor, Richard Valle, who has made it, gotten significant county money for the Stack Center. And Director Hodges and Supervisor Valle and I have been meeting for a couple of years now, and we will probably continue to do that several years now, and until this project is completed. So we really appreciate very much the partnership we have with HARD.
Okay, one last one. I don't mean to hog it, but on the grounds level retail that you guys are requiring on new construction, what is the percentage of vacancy as versus to occupancy right now?
Well, it's hard to say right now because and it's even hard to know, like just to count up all that we've done in the past. Did you have any guess on that, Madam City Manager? I know that it is difficult. It has been difficult to sometimes get that retail, but I think we're doing actually pretty well on it.
Is this on? There we go. I think also with COVID, there's been a lot of spots that were filled that are vacant, and so I think it's a little tricky to gauge that right now. I know, for example, the Lincoln Landing project, they're almost fully leased up on their commercial space, even though we can't talk about who the tenants are yet, but it's going to be a good mix of tenants in that space along with the apartment units. I think the Sohay project, there's some retail spaces that are below the apartments facing Mission Boulevard. They have started leasing those up. So I think some of the newer spaces, I think the staff has gotten a little savvier about how to design those with the developers so that they actually have better attraction for retail. I think some of the earlier sort of mixed use, the commercial space was not designed in a way that really attracted retail. So I would just say it's probably a little tricky to say how much is vacant right now just because of the impact of COVID and businesses that have shut down. So, but I know that some of the newer projects are leasing up fairly well.
So if the economy does so well, I think we'll get those leased. But one of the sites is the old Halliday bowling alley, which has, if you've been down there lately, the bowling alley is now gone. There's a big pile of gravel or something on it right now. Looks like kind of a mountain or something. But it is, the plans are moving forward to turn that into housing and on the corner of commercial development.
Thank you. Our next question is from Diane Shaw of AC Transit.
And I'm sorry I didn't recognize you earlier, Diane, and Director Hodges, but yes, we have our AC Transit as another one of our partners that we really is an important partner for us, and we have a lot of cooperative efforts with.
No problem. Thank you very much. It was a good presentation, Mayor Halliday. My question kind of goes along with, I see all the development that you're doing, which is wonderful. There's a lot of houses that are coming down. And as you can imagine, I'm really interested in trying to reduce the congestion that we have. Greenhouse gases, all of our climate issues. And interested in mobility. And so I wondered if you had any incentives moving forward or any plans moving forward to ensure the job-home balance within Hayward to try to get more people who work in Hayward to stay in Hayward to live, so that we don't get people on the freeways and we can get more people on transit options, mobility options, because they're working closer to home.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little tricky thing to do because you can't sell houses to people just because they work in Hayward or require people who work in Hayward to buy a house in Hayward. And two people, when there are two or more workers in a family too, that does sometimes create that need. However, I think we're just part of the whole regional effort to do that. And we are trying to do that. We are trying in every way we can. And so I would point to the good progress we've made on development in our industrial area to bring more jobs to Hayward. Jobs housing balance is something that's really important at the regional level. I happen to serve on the executive board of the Association of Bay Area Governments as well. And so we are, along with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, overseeing something called Plan Bay Area 2020, which I know you know about, but I mean, I'm sorry, Plan Bay Area 2050, not 2020, that's gone now. And that really, in looking at how we're going to develop as a region, the jobs housing balance was a very key component of looking at that and trying to encourage both job development and housing development, and balance it out when you have the South Bay, across the bay from us, having really heavy jobs and very, very expensive housing. And over here, we could use some of those jobs, but our housing prices are more affordable. So trying to even things out around the Bay Area is what is. So I think this is going to happen on a regional level.
And our last question is from Jacques Coutreau of Case Industries.
Good morning, Mayor. Thank you. I was wondering, with all the new construction going on and all the wonderful housing projects and all the new hotels, what's being done about the transportation issue in Hayward, the traffic congestion on the Mission Corridor, which is still pretty bad without all the new housing. And as we get out of COVID, it's probably going to get a lot worse. People are going to be going back to work. So how concerned are you with that issue and what's being done about that?
Well, not at all concerned, because we have great people like Diane Shaw on the AC Transit Board that's going to push for better bus services along Mission Boulevard, so that we, and I'm not really being facetious either. I mean, that is the answer. And sometimes, if getting in your car is a real easy thing to do, then you're going to do that. But when it isn't, that's when people move on to public transit. And I think along Mission Boulevard is definitely a key area that we could see good public. We have it now, and we could see better. We could see increased service if the riders came. And we're actually looking at a rapid bus possibility that already has been started up in Oakland and San Leandro and may come down here. And then I would say we are also doing as much as we can to move people into active transportation, which is walking and bicycling, especially bicycling. We had a lot of work to do, but you'll see all over the town now that we're adding bus lanes. There's one really exciting project that I hope I get to live to see. I mean, it's not going to happen next year, but there are plans to bring a bicycle route down through a green and pedestrian, hiking route away from cars down along the unused part of the railroad tracks that come all the way down from Oakland. Actually, part of this has already been built up in the Oakland area. It involves working with Union Pacific Railroad, which isn't the easiest thing in the world to do all the time, but the plans, and this is a Alameda County Transportation Commission project. I'm also serve on that board, and so the plan is to bring it down all the way to the Tennyson, the South Hayward BART station at Tennyson, and then there are some bicycle paths down there, and share the road, complete streets. Those are the words we're living by today, and the automobile. If there's traffic congestion, maybe that will make people think about, is there another way I can do this trip?
Well, thank you, Mayor Halliday, for your attention and your interest and your wonderful presentation, both to our in-person audience and to the much larger audience virtually. Hopefully this will be one of your last virtual presentations. So why don't you take us out with just, again, to summarize the reason why you're optimistic about Hayward in the recovery.
Because we are a resilient community. I am optimistic that Hayward is going to respond well. I think we have through this pandemic. I think I'm not just sort of bragging about what the city has done, but the whole community, our business community contributed so much. Our residents, our nonprofits, all work together. You can see that in so many things in Hayward, how the partnerships we have with other agencies and with our nonprofits, we have really, I think, mastered the art of working together as a community to move us forward. And I was so inspired on Saturday morning by the turnout, by seeing how much people cared to be out again, interacting with each other. I think that having one of the most diverse communities in the country it has served us well, and it's going to continue to serve us well. And I just can't be anything but optimistic about Hayward's future. We are the heart of the Bay. We're going to stay that way, and we're going to survive and thrive as a community. Thank you all.